Good morning, champions. Let me ask you a question. Are you ready to rise, or are you just willing to survive? Because the difference between average and excellence, between good and great, is found in the decisions you make when no one's watching. Success is a decision, not an accident. It doesn't fall out of the sky, and it doesn't happen just because you hope for it or want it really badly. Success begins when you make a non-negotiable no turning, back line in, this and decision that your life is going to be different. You don't become the best of the best by waiting for the right time, the right people, or the perfect circumstances. You become the best when you decide that excuses are no longer an option. You decide that your past does not define your future. You decide that your potential matters more than your pain, and your vision matters more than your limitations. That's where real transformation begins, not in information, but in decision. Most people never step into greatness because they're waiting for clarity. But clarity doesn't come first, commitment does. Once you decide, life begins to rearrange itself around your determination. You start showing up differently, you start speaking differently, you stop settling for less, and you start reaching for more. But it all starts with a decision, and not just any decision. A committed decision, a decision backed by action, by faith, by consistency. When you truly decide there's no plan B, the bridge behind you gets burned. You stop flirting with your old life. You stop negotiating with your comfort zone. A person who truly decides is dangerous. They become unstoppable, because once that decision is made, discipline becomes easier. Focus becomes natural, distractions start to fade, you start moving with intention, and the moment you start moving with intention, you tap into a power that casual people never understand. That's the difference. The masses wish, the committed decide, the crowd watches, the champions act, and the best of the best. They're not looking for motivation. They're moved by mission. People often say, "I'll try." That's not a decision. Trying is a polite way of saying, "I'm not all in." But when you decide, you don't try, you train, you study, you work, you execute, you endure, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's unpopular, even when it's lonely. That's what it takes. Decision doesn't mean the journey will be easy, but it means you won't quit just because it's hard. You'll keep going when others stop. You'll stay committed when others get distracted. And that's where the gap forms, between the good and the great, between the average and the exceptional, between the ones who dream and the ones who do. So no, success isn't accidental. It's not random. It's intentional. It's the result of a made-up mind, a settled will, and a spirit that refuses to be denied. When you decide to become the best of the best, the path will rise to meet your feet, but only if you walk it. Discipline is the bridge between desire and destiny. Everyone has desires, big dreams, grand goals, the image of a better life, but desire alone is never enough. Desire is the spark, but discipline is the fuel. It's the daily grind, the unglamorous consistency, the willingness to keep showing up when no one is clapping, when the results haven't arrived yet, and when your feelings beg you to quit. Discipline is what takes potential and turns it into performance. It's what transforms a wish into a win. Without discipline, desire remains a fantasy, an idea that never takes form, a vision that never manifests. The problem is not that people don't want success. It's that they're not willing to be governed by the habits that create it. Everyone wants to be successful until it's time to do what successful people do. Discipline demands sacrifice. It demands that you say no to what feels good in the moment so you can say yes to what lasts. It requires you to prioritize purpose over pleasure, principles over preference. It demands that you train when others are sleeping, that you study when others are scrolling, and that you practice when others are playing. It's the invisible work that produces visible results. It's the foundation you build in silence that the world will one day applaud in public. When you understand this, you stop chasing motivation. You realize motivation is fleeting, but discipline is stable. Motivation shows up when it feels like it. Discipline shows up whether it feels like it or not. It doesn't ask how you feel, it commands what you do. That's why it's the bridge. It stands in the gap between the life you want and the life you're living. It connects your intentions to your impact. Without it, your desire will collapse under the weight of your excuses. But with it, Your destiny becomes inevitable, not optional. People often admire the results of the best, but they rarely understand the rigor behind them. Success leaves clues, and one of the loudest is discipline. The best athletes, entrepreneurs, leaders, and creators are not superhuman. They are just super consistent. They've trained themselves to do what others avoid. They've built routines that align with their results. They don't negotiate with distractions. They execute, they repeat, they refine day after day, year after year. That's what discipline looks like. It's not flashy, it's not dramatic, but it's powerful. If you want to move from potential to performance, from dream to destiny, from average to exceptional, discipline must become your lifestyle. Not a phase, not a season, but a mindset you carry into everything you do. Because once discipline takes root, you stop relying on talent and start depending on truth. And the truth is this: nothing great is built on convenience. Greatness is built on commitment, and discipline is the tool that turns that commitment into results that last. Purpose over hustle. In today's culture, we glorify the grind, we romanticize being busy, wearing exhaustion like a badge of honor. But the truth is, hustle without purpose is just movement without meaning. It's noise without direction. You can hustle your way into burnout, into frustration, even into success that feels empty. But when you operate from purpose, everything changes. Purpose gives your hustle direction. It turns your grind into growth. It aligns your work with your why. Purpose is the foundation that makes the struggle worthwhile and the sacrifices meaningful. A lot of people are chasing success without ever stopping to define what success really means to them. That's how you end up running hard in the wrong direction. That's how you wake up one day with money, status, and applause, but no peace. When you lead with purpose, you stop chasing approval and start chasing alignment. You're not driven by external validation, you're anchored by internal conviction. Purpose gives you clarity. It helps you say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't. It filters out the distractions and gives you laser focus. It's not that you stop working hard, it's that your hard work becomes intentional. People who hustle without purpose often confuse busyness with productivity. They fill their calendar but still feel empty inside. They accomplish tasks but never feel accomplished. Purpose breaks that cycle. Purpose reminds you who you are and why you started. It connects your grind to a greater impact. It brings fulfillment to the process, not just the outcome. Because when your actions serve a bigger mission, even the mundane becomes meaningful. Even the pain has purpose. You weren't created to just hustle and survive. You were created to lead, to serve, to build something that lasts. And that begins with discovering your purpose. Something bigger than the paycheck, deeper than the praise, and more lasting than the pressure. Once you know your purpose, you work differently. You speak differently. You think long term. You stop quitting when it gets hard because you're no longer doing it just for you. You're doing it for the people your purpose is designed to impact, and that's the key. Purpose isn't just about personal fulfillment. It's about legacy, it's about transformation, it's about stewardship of your gifts, your time, and your calling. The world doesn't need more burnt-out hustlers, it needs more purpose-driven leaders, people who move with intention, who lead with vision, who choose depth over noise. When you choose purpose over hustle, you stop striving and start building. You stop competing and start creating. Your work becomes worship. Your career becomes a calling. And your results carry weight, not just because of what you achieve, but because of why you achieved it. That's where true power lies, not in the speed of your hustle, but in the strength of your purpose. Fear is a liar. It dresses itself up as wisdom, caution, or logic, but underneath it's just insecurity with a microphone. Fear will whisper in your ear that you're not ready, not worthy, not capable. It will show you every possible scenario where you fail, fall, or get rejected. And it will do everything it can to paralyze you before you even begin. Fear doesn't have to destroy your dreams. It just has to delay them long enough for you to give up. That's how it wins, not by overpowering you, but by convincing you to sit down when you were born to stand up. The most dangerous thing about fear is that it often sounds reasonable. It tells you to wait for the perfect time, to gather more information, to avoid risk, to play it safe. But what it's really doing is building a cage around your potential and locking the door from the inside. Fear isn't protecting you, it's limiting you. It's not keeping you safe, it's keeping you stuck. And every time you choose fear, you're reinforcing the lie that you can't handle more, that you're not built for more, when the truth is, you were created for greatness. Fear loves comfort zones, it thrives in the familiar, it hates change, growth, and faith, because growth requires you to stretch, and stretching feels uncomfortable. But comfort is not your calling, safety is not your assignment. You don't get to be extraordinary by playing it safe. Every meaningful breakthrough happens on the other side of fear. Every powerful transformation starts with a step that fear tries to talk you out of. But when you stop listening to fear, you start moving in faith, and faith always moves you forward. Fear will remind you of your past, point out your flaws, and magnify your failures. It wants you to believe that your mistakes disqualify you. But the truth is, your past doesn't define you. It prepares you. Your flaws don't weaken you. They position you for grace, and your failures aren't the end. They're feedback. Fear doesn't want you to see that. It wants you to stay small, stay silent, stay still. But deep down, you know you were made for more. You can feel it. That tension inside you isn't anxiety. It's potential waiting to be released. The people you admire, the ones who have accomplished great things, they felt fear too. They just didn't bow to it. They didn't let it lead. They acknowledged it, then moved anyway. That's courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else matters more. And when purpose matters more, when impact matters more, when destiny matters more, fear loses its grip. You stop feeding it with your focus, and it starts to shrink. Fear will always talk, but you don't have to listen. You can choose to believe a different narrative. You can choose boldness. You can choose to act even when your hands shake and your voice trembles. Because fear is a liar, and it only has power if you agree with it. The moment you stop agreeing is the moment you start rising. Environment matters. You can have all the talent, all the ambition, and all the vision in the world, but if you're planted in the wrong environment, your potential will wither. Just like a seed cannot grow in toxic soil, you cannot grow in an environment that doesn't nourish your purpose. The people you surround yourself with, the conversations you entertain, the energy you absorb, all of it is shaping who you are becoming. Whether you realize it or not, your environment is either feeding your faith or feeding your fear. It's either pulling you forward or dragging you down. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your environment. You can distract you from your vision, and the danger is, it can happen so subtly that you don't notice until you've drifted far from your purpose. That's why you have to be intentional. You have to protect your space like it's sacred, because it is. Where you live, where you work, who you talk to, what you listen to, it all matters. The right environment will stretch you. It will challenge you. It won't let you settle. It will remind you of who you are and call out the best in you even when you can't see it yourself. The wrong environment is full of complainers, excuse makers, and small thinkers. It makes you shrink. It makes you question your vision. It makes you think that dreaming big is foolish. But the right environment? It's full of people who dream even bigger. People who inspire you to rise, not because they tell you to, but because their example pulls you up. The right environment normalizes excellence. It speaks life. It challenges laziness. It celebrates progress. And most importantly, it aligns with your future, not your past. If you're serious about becoming the best of the best, you have to evaluate your environment with ruthless honesty. Who's speaking into your life? What are you feeding your mind with? Where are you investing your time? Because you can't fly with eagles if you're walking with pigeons. You can't develop champion habits in a culture of complacency. Growth is not just about mindset. It's about atmosphere. It's about energy. It's about alignment. The wrong environment will suffocate your purpose. The right one will breathe life into it. Choose wisely. Because environment doesn't just influence your future, it helps create it, fitting you, not breaking you. Fortitude is not the absence of struggle, it is strength forged in struggle. Faith gives that struggle meaning. It gives you a reason to press on even when you can't see the outcome. Because sometimes you won't see the way clearly. Sometimes you'll feel surrounded by darkness, confusion, or silence. But faith doesn't wait for the light to appear. Faith walks anyway, and the more you walk by faith, the stronger your fortitude becomes. People often ask how the best of the best keep moving in the face of rejection, betrayal, loss, or failure. The answer is faith, not shallow optimism, not blind positivity, but a deep-rooted assurance that purpose is greater than pain and destiny is stronger than delay. Faith fuels resilience, it anchors your identity, so the criticism doesn't crush you and the applause doesn't distract you. It keeps your focus on the mission, not the moment. Faith builds your internal capacity to endure seasons that would break most people, and when others fall away, the faithful remain standing, not because it's easy, but because they are powered by something greater than circumstances. Fortitude is tested when your plans fall apart. It's tested when doors close, when people walk away, when the timeline stretches longer than you expected. That's when faith takes center stage. Faith says, this detour is still divine. Faith says, I might be delayed, but I'm not denied. Faith says, there's more in me, and I refuse to quit here. That kind of belief builds endurance. It gives you the power to persevere not just for a day, but for a lifetime, because the journey to greatness isn't smooth. It's full of ups and downs, twists and turns, but when you walk it with faith, every valley becomes a setup for a mountaintop. Faith doesn't make things easy, it makes them possible, and when your heart is filled with that kind of faith, your fortitude becomes unstoppable. You don't just survive storms, you overcome them. You don't just endure the journey, you elevate through it, because faith isn't weakness, faith is fuel, and that fuel will carry you further than talent, timing, or luck ever could.